Thank you. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Chairman Risch, Ranking Member Shaheen. Thank you, Secretary Rubio, for being here. Secretary Rubio, I applaud the administration for facilitating a ceasefire last year between Israel and Gaza that will keep Israel safe and from further Hamas attacks and end the suffering of Palestinian civilians. But I have serious questions about transparency about the funding for the so-called Board of Peace in light of recent reporting that suggests donor funds have been deposited into a private J.P. Morgan account with no independent transparency mechanisms in place. As a member of the Board of Peace, Executive Board, and Secretary of State, you should be in a position to provide us with some answers. And you, as a former senator, know our role here, trying to get answers. And my team's been asking for a contact with the Board of Peace for several months just to do our due diligence, but we've received no response. Can you tell me exactly who my team should be reaching out to, please?
Well, I can now, because the Board of Peace has finally hired some staff. It's going to be a very lean operation. They're working out of the Institute of Peace building. So for some period of time, they really were not. It was just a very lean operation.
So do you have a name for my...
I do. I just don't have it on me, but I will get that
That's
to
fine.
you. I think they just hired staff like in the last two weeks.
We will follow up with you. Thank you. I have a few other questions. Can you tell me how much money is in the World Bank administered Board of Peace Fund? Do you have
I don't have the answer because there's not U.S. dollars that have flowed. These are donor funds.
So can you tell me how much money is in the J.P. Morgan account?
Yeah, but again, those are not U.S. government accounts. Those are
who has oversight?
Well, that's the key here. That ultimately the oversight over the funds of the Board of Peace will be done, and especially when it comes to U.S. dollars, will be done by you in Congress. We have not committed those funds there yet, although we've made a pledge until they've stood up the Board of Peace administratively.
Congress will have oversight ability.
Well, on the U.S. dollars.
Of the U.S. dollars. Can the money in the J.P. Morgan account be used to compensate the president or his family or anyone directly?
No one's talking about doing
president? That. And you said you just hired some folks, and it's going to be lean. About how many full-time personnel do you expect?
I think they ultimately want to get up to 15 or 20 full-time. I think they've started at 5, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but those are the numbers I recall.
So is the $50 million in U.S. taxpayer money that your department wants to give to the Board of Peace, is that going to be used to cover this?
But I think that $50 million was reversed. We ended up not doing that as a result of the way it was constructed. The Board of Peace is now built out as an international, non-governmental organization.
We will follow up with you on that once you give us a contact after this. Thank you.
The enforcement of statutory fiscal accountability requires absolute transparency across all international stabilization entities tied to executive leadership. Senator Jacky Rosen recently established a rigorous procedural challenge against Secretary Marco Rubio, identifying a severe oversight deficit within the Gaza Board of Peace's operational architecture. Rosen entered into the record investigative findings showing that global donor capital has skipped traditional multilateral oversight bodies, like the World Bank, and was instead routed directly into a private commercial repository at J.P. Morgan Chase. This corporate localization introduces significant compliance vulnerabilities regarding independent tracking mechanisms. Lightbulb the data curiosity. This institutional collision exposes an extraordinary structural paradox. Senator Rosen represents Nevada, a state whose economy is completely dictated by intensely regulated gaming and hospitality cash flows, giving her a specialized legislative focus on preventing illicit capital diversion and dark money routing. Secretary Rubio is managing a fluid diplomatic transition where stabilization bodies are increasingly structured outside the state apparatus to avoid legislative bottlenecks. When Rosen forces Rubio to map out the exact firewall protecting U.S. taxpayer dollars from mixing with private commercial NGO holdings, she is challenging a growing executive preference for using non-state actors to bypass traditional congressional spending controls. The organizational metrics revealed during the panel evaluation indicate a highly fragmented administrative rollout. Rubio testified that the Gaza Board of Peace is currently operating as an international non-governmental organization out of the Institute of Peace Building, utilizing a skeleton framework of approximately 5 full-time personnel with an ultimate target acquisition of 15 to 20 staff members. Rubio confirmed that an initial $50 million congressional appropriation intended for the board's administrative setup was systematically reversed and canceled due to the structural conversion of the entity into an international NGO. While Rubio asserted that future U.S. dollar allocations will remain subject to full congressional review, the current commingling of foreign donor assets within commercial corporate accounts remains unmonitored by federal auditors. They are converting public diplomatic initiatives into international NGO shells, shifting global stabilization capital away from international oversight into private bank accounts. Smash the like button, leave your rigorous data breakdown in the comments below, and subscribe to @WalterWhitePods right now. Turn on notifications to secure your access to raw, unvarnished data panels.